Hello, hello. Welcome to the Elevated Frequency podcast. My name is Lisa Kirby, co-founder of The Green Door Life with my lovely business partner, business wife, life partner, all the things, Shannon Morse. We're so excited to do this lovely podcast today. We're excited to introduce Roudy Nassif, co-founder or founder rather of Viva Rays. And let's just dive right in and pick up this conversation where we left off a couple weeks ago. Roudy, how has the understanding of light, natural light, artificial light, changed your life? Not a small question, but let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started when I was a little kid at school. I was the perfect example of a problem child because I started with deep, intense headaches, agitation, eye strain, and I couldn't focus in the class. And all I wanted was to break free and be outside in nature. To me, like the being outside inspired me to write poetry and to look around and learn from the dynamics of nature. And my teachers did not like this, so they labeled me with ADHD, and they forced me back into this prison cell where I was supposed to sit down, memorize, repeat, and learn under those artificial lights. So I had to develop like a strategy, right? Like I wasn't feeling good in myself, and I noticed that when I make crazy stuff and stir up some trouble, the teacher will ask me to leave the class. So troublemaking became my identity. I became the troublemaker, and believe it or not, I was asked to leave 7 different schools throughout my school and college time. And then fast forward, I somehow landed myself in engineering school. But to be honest, by then, though my teachers and my parents were proud of me, oh my God, my son is going into engineering school, I was the most disconnected from myself I've ever been. And I start living like a night owl, staying up at night, wired, and feeling useless and drained during the day. I felt like I was constantly tired, never up for much, and I wasn't motivated, and I was like literally like dragging myself through the day, as if I had something super heavy on my back. And I was like, what, like 20 years old? Like, doesn't make sense. Like, how could a 20 years old guy is constantly feeling fatigued? So after graduating from engineering school, I started working as an engineer in Africa, and within 2 years, I hit the lowest point when I got actually fired from my job as an engineer. And I remember that day very well because I woke up the second morning feeling literally like a car has run over me. I was literally paralyzed with sadness and fatigue, laying down in bed. And I remember looking at the mirror and I was like searching for a glimmer of hope, a reason to continue amidst all this gloominess. And I started becoming seriously suicidal in that moment. I was thinking about the best and easiest way to end my life. So it was pretty intense and pretty dark. And I could literally remember moments when I would think about my mom and how would she feel and like the pain that I would cause her if I was to act on this. And that kept me from actually acting on that idea. And a few weeks after, I remember that I literally like saw a quote from Albert Einstein, and it said, "Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results." And boom, something happened inside of myself when I saw these words. It struck me like a ball of lightning. It opened up a space within my heart, and I was able to look at myself and see through things. And I decided I no longer care about maintaining my career. I no longer care about doing things the way everyone around me in the society wants me to do it. And so I decided to leave everything, literally, my career as an engineer. And I had this plan to start traveling into the unknown and with the idea that I wanted to learn from different health experts how I could reclaim my health and well being. And during my travel, it was exciting at the beginning because I was learning a lot of information from different health gurus. But then within a matter of a month or so, it became extremely overwhelming and confusing because I found myself in this rabbit hole of a dialogue of like, eat this food, no, eat that, no, don't eat this, take this vitamin, no, this supplement, no, that supplement. And it was all confusing and too much for my brain. And no matter how many diets I tried, like you name it, every diet on earth I have tried. And no matter how many expensive supplements I bought, I wasn't feeling any better. So I sat down and I thought to myself, oh my God, why does it need to be extremely complicated? Is it only me? What's going on? Is there an easier way to navigate that journey? And then a few evenings later, I had this habit of, smoking weed at night and being online, streaming videos on YouTube until late. And I found this video um, by Dr. Jack Kruse called Artificial Light is Killing Us. And ironically, it's 1 a.m. in the morning, I'm super high, and I'm watching this video telling me that artificial light is killing me. And to be to be honest with you, my mind was super foggy and tired, and everything he was saying flew over my head. But there was one thing that was very different this time. I woke up the second day, and there was one line that kept coming into my consciousness. And it said, you can't get healthy in the same light environment that made you sick. Wow, like I was like, you can't get healthy in the same light environment that made you sick. And I thought it through, and like what, like by light environment it means all the lights that I'm surrounded with as I live an indoor lifestyle, from my light bulbs, and that's what, like 14, 16 hours per day. I'm inside surrounded by these lights, and this guy is telling me, like, you can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. And I thought to myself, what can I do about this? And I'm sitting down with a friend, and he's a backpacker, and I'm sharing with him my intention to like be in a place that I'm not surrounded by artificial light. But I said, like, I'm extremely confused. Like, where can I actually be? I don't know of a place like this. And he said, I think you need to check out this website called Roofing. And it's a place where you could find all these farmers living in rural areas up north, practicing permaculture, biodynamic farming. And then you could apply to go live with them and volunteer to give them a hand as they farm in exchange for accommodation and food. I was like, wow, I didn't know like something like this existed. So I went online, I saw the website, I applied to this farm in northern Quebec, and I got accepted. And here I am driving my car for 7 hours from Ontario to Quebec, and I arrived to this wondrous land far away from population. And I was living there for 6 weeks, sleeping in my tent, being exposed to natural sunlight during the day and fire and candlelight during the evening. Like, I've never experienced something like this. And the magic is like literally within a matter of 3 days, I felt a transformation that I hadn't felt in 25 years. Noticed my intense headaches and eye strain disappeared. And having been told that I'm a night owl, I start sleeping shortly after the sunset to then wake up before the sunrise with no alarm clock, feeling rested, energized, and exhilarated with a sense of joy. I was like, wow, like I was on top of my world. And another thing is, I grew up with the self-image that I'm an ADHD kid. And what that meant to me is like, I can't focus, right? Like this is the only thing I knew about myself. And for the first time, imagine this, I'm in the fields, I feel like this warm hand tapping on my shoulder, and this farmer, here we go, he's praising me at the level of focus I was showing on the field. Like me hearing this, I remember like feeling chills traveling up my spine, and I teared up literally, and I realized in this moment I was no longer that person. I realized finally my old paradigm was shifting, and somehow I was able to start seeing myself through a whole new lens, where I was no longer this unfocused guy.
So good. Oh, Lise, can I share something real quick?
Sure.
This is so good for the thank you, Roudy. You just shared like this whole journey with us that was so beautiful. And for those of individuals who are listening, if there's an aspect of you where you are identifying and able to identify with any one of these experiences where you're feeling like you're carrying all this weight, where you actually aren't experiencing yourself able to focus, where you feel like you're not around sunlight very often throughout the day, where you might be experiencing symptoms of ADHD or depression, and then just notice and ask yourself how much light you might be around from a natural source. And just, it's an opportunity for reflection in that way. But Roudy, I want to say that you probably know this, but when you said that the thing that kept coming through for you with the Jack Kruse quote was that you couldn't heal from the same light environment, that's the parallel to the Einstein quote as well, right? And what that made me think of is that light is consciousness. So light is any environment. So we can't heal from the same consciousness that caused disease in the first place, right?
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Absolutely.
So I just want to like even broaden the conversation for us and give us an invitation to broaden it in that way, because light is the beginning of it, but it is so much more than just the light, right? It's absolutely how we integrate with it, and then how we allow it to integrate with us, and the deep listening that you're demonstrating with you sharing about your journey. And it's such a cool thing. So I had to say that because I was like, oh my God.
Yes, I totally agree with this. And one of the things that I learned after, because like when I was on this farm, I then came back to the city, and then within a matter of a few weeks, I fell back into my old terrible routine of being indoors, scrolling on social media, feeling like garbage, unable to focus, unmotivated. And I was like, how could that be possible? So I started this very interesting pattern of alternating between farms and cities. And then I would feel exalted on the farm. I would feel like garbage in the city. And relating back to what Jack Kruse was saying about light, this led me to a 7-year journey of studying about light, quantum biophysics, and circadian biology. And I start realizing, like, in the field of health and wellness, we disregard all forces of physics, like light and magnetism, because we tend to disconnect biology from physics, right? Like, there's no book of biology in any program that I've seen that takes into consideration those forces of physics. And the reality is that what I start learning is that it all starts with those forces of physics. And these forces of physics, like light, are actually the boss that are instructing all of our neurochemistry on what to do and when to do what. And if this force is corrupted, our internal terrain becomes corrupted. And then we start losing our ability to have the resourcefulness inside of us to overcome obstacles and challenges, which we indeed need. And all of it is already within us, right? Like the great illuminates, they all say like the power is within you. But in order to access this power, there's also an interchange with your environment that needs to be of support so that you can access that power. And on that journey, I learned about E equal MC squared from Albert Einstein, which, as an engineer, like that's probably one of the first equations that we learned. I never looked at it from the lens of health and wellness. And just to break it down in very simple terms, E is light and M is stuff, just like our bodies and everything around us that is physical, including the earth. And C is speed. Okay, so there's a relationship between light, matter, and speed. And while this might sound like it's coming out of a science fiction movie, what it actually means is that light and matter are exactly the same thing. And when light slows down, it turns into matter. So we are, in our essence, light beings. And literally, when light hits the cornea and the eye, we have a substance called the vitreous EDI, which is composed of water, collagen, and acid. And its purpose is to slow light down so that we can use that light energy to activate our inner pharmacy so that we can manufacture every hormone and every neurotransmitter that you can think of that control the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we act. This light actually controls our endocrine system and our nervous system. Therefore, it controls our metabolism, our sleep and wake cycle. And the type of light that is getting in our eyes is deciding at a subconscious level how good we sleep, which mood we're in, how much energy we have, how much we can focus, and how much we can get done. So if you think about it a little bit, light creates reality.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally changes the way we see ourselves and the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the beautiful interplay between the light outside and our inner light. It's one and the same. But this, when we are soaked in light that is balanced, which is coming from nature's light, it gives us all the resourcefulness to access that aspect of our consciousness that is light and that is here to evolve and ascend and be of service to humanity. And one aspect about depression and about feeling like garbage, it's also related to a lack of purpose and a lack of being able to see things as they are. Because when we are in an environment that is constantly bombarding us with junk, and when this light is entering our eyes and is depleting our dopamine, our serotonin, it's completely disrupting our capacity to see things as they are and to sit down and pay attention, to think outside of the box, to dare to dream and to dare to be of service to humanity and to dare to have a goal that is big enough that drives us. Because I believe like what we call energy doesn't necessarily come from food. It actually comes from a desire within us to serve and to be of purpose. And you could test it on yourself. Eat all the food that you want and eat all the great food. If you don't have something that is driving you from within, if you don't have like a goal that is moving you forward because you have this intense desire to be of service to other human beings, like no matter what type of food you eat, and even no matter how much you try to sit down in sunlight, you're not gonna move the needle a lot. So it's like the combination of different things, really, like having an environment that is supportive, making sure that you're exposing yourself to sunlight during the day and you're avoiding artificial light at night. With all of this together combined with a true desire to be of service is actually what drives us forward and moves our energy. And what I tend to see today is like people my age, they're constantly driven by behaviors that are depleting every aspect of them. Why? Because they're on social media scrolling. They're constantly waiting for these short-term validation, likes and comments. They're jumping from one series on Netflix to another. And in a sense, all of this light that is entering their eyes at the wrong time is an unbalanced light that is completely disrupting their endocrine system and their neurochemistry in a way that the body cannot produce enough dopamine, enough serotonin. And when you lack serotonin, dopamine, beta endorphin, and all these things, it's hard to make it through life because life is a series of up and down and there's like so many obstacles. It's like many people talk about life as this like something that is supposed to be easy and fun. But the truth is life is glorious, but it has its own challenges. And if you don't have that resourcefulness inside of yourself, if you're not taking care of the environment around you so that it's nourishing you, how do you think are you going to be able to make it through those obstacles? You're going to be like terrified in the face of very little obstacles that life will bring forth so that you can evolve and grow.
So good.
I'm like, Lisa, I'm like putting pins in your conversations to come back to. I'm like, okay, I got to pin that one and that one.
It's so beautiful, and I so appreciate this conversation because, Roudy, something that we encounter just in our branding and our business and just trying to communicate what we do is it's a really interesting process because most people can understand, oh, we help people with nutrition, we help people with weight loss or muscle building and whatnot. But we know on the back end that it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper than that. And something that actually led me down to this path and rabbit hole of finding quantum biology, finding you, finding Viva rays, and studying about all this stuff was I had worked with, just in the past couple of years now, a handful of female clients in their mid 40s. And no matter what we did, nothing was working. Nothing was moving. They were at a total stall and plateau. They were eating, they were following all the things, they were exercising, they were doing all the things, they were getting enough sleep, but I didn't know at the time to start asking more in-depth questions. And I sensed that there was some sort of stressor happening on their end, on a day-to-day life, that was causing them to be in this place of being stuck. And so the more that I looked into it, I'm like, it's got to be hormones. It's got to be perimenopause. You know, I started noticing some things in myself, some changes in my body after turning 40. And the deeper I went in studying hormones, I ultimately found light and quantum biology. And I'm like, oh my God, before we can even talk about estrogen and progesterone, we need to talk about leptin and cortisol and melatonin. And it's, oh my God, it's all controlled by like light and the light sequence and artificial light versus natural light. And it just blew my mind because it's all these things that intuitively my body knew. I've always loved being in the sun, always loved, just can't get enough sunlight. You know, as a little kid, it's just my favorite thing is to be outside in the sun. Always loved warmer weather, but putting it all together and learning the science behind it, especially connected to your metabolism, your manufacture of neurotransmitters, your mood, your digestion, literally everything. I was like, we can't even go here. We need to start here. And so if you could share, Roudy, just for this subset of demographic of women, what would be the number one thing that you would share with them of how light impacts hormones and just what they need to be aware of?
Yeah, that's like, I noticed as you're talking about this, like this bubbly, excited energy, like it's coming up, and I'm like, I want to like connect with every woman. And what I want every woman to know is her relationship to light and what light is and how light translates into things in her. So light is really the most powerful force that shapes and molds every aspect of our life. It's the alpha and the omega, right? We spoke about Albert Einstein, E=mc². When light slows down, it turns into matter. Also, when light combines with CO2, it creates the foundation for the whole food chain, right? Via photosynthesis. And while these two fundamental principles of physics will intellectually help us understand that light is everything, you will come to appreciate light at a deeper level when you understand what it does inside of you. Right? And we all have, as humans, we have like photoreceptors in our eyes, in our skins, in our guts, and in our lungs that are there to capture light information, and they help us activate our inner pharmacy to produce every hormone that we can think of in the body. So up until 1970s, when we spoke about light, everybody thought light is something superficial that makes vision possible. You know, when you think about light, it's like turning on and off the light. It's something that you do and you take for granted. But actually, science started like realizing back in the 1970s that light goes way beyond vision. In fact, vision was only a small aspect to what light does. Light controls our nervous system and our endocrine system. And it's a massive rabbit hole that we could, extend into so many different areas. But let's talk, for example, let's give specific examples so people could understand. Light literally affects your fertility, steroid, and sex hormones. The master sex hormone, pregnenolone, is actually made in the inner mitochondrial membrane in response to morning sunlight. And pregnenolone is the raw material from which the stress hormone cortisol is made, but also the fertility hormone estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. Right? So when we first wake up first thing in the morning, light enters our eyes, our body converts some of that pregnenolone to cortisol in happy days, because this healthy rising tide of cortisol is what allows us to feel focused, alert, energized, and ready for the day. It's nature's most effective cup of coffee. It is actually the thing that gives us the alertness and the focus to go after what we want in that day. And under balanced conditions, the body will convert the rest of the pregnenolone to youth and sex hormones. So hormones like estrogen and progesterone are absolutely necessary to keep high energy levels, but they're also very important for keeping youthful looking skin and hair. However, if the mitochondria senses a threat in our environment, say back in the days, you're with your tribe in nature, hunting and gathering, and you see this tiger chasing you, in this moment, all of the pregnenolone gets diverted from fertility pathways to stress hormone cortisol, so that you can drive glucose to your muscles and run, fight, and flight. In this moment, you're not concerned about making a baby, and you're not concerned about keeping youthful looking skin and hair. The one concern in your head is, how can I run away fast enough so that I could escape from that tiger and run and stay alive. Now here's the interesting thing. We now know that psychological stress, like unbalanced thinking, like sitting down in your room and like worrying about everything in life, it actually causes that same effect. It creates like a illusionary tiger, and it actually diverts all of your pregnenolone into cortisol pathways. But even more interesting, we know from Fritz Holwisch, he's a German scientist back in the 1970s. He's done amazing work on light and the endocrine system. He showed us that sitting under unbalanced artificial light, blue light specifically, which comes from our screens, from our phone, from our LED bulbs that we're using all over our homes, it actually increases cortisol and ACTH in an abnormal way. And as a result, the mitochondria divert pregnenolone from sex pathways to more cortisol. And what this does, it taxes our sexual glands, and it starts leading to brain fog and sluggishness. And it also negatively impact the fertility pathways for men and women. Now, cortisol is a very absolutely like important hormone, because we tend to think about cortisol as like the bad hormone because it's associated with stress. But the truth is, in a healthy human being, we need to be experiencing this ebb and flow, rise and fall of cortisol at the wrong time of the day. The problem happen is when any given hormone is present at the wrong time of the day. And that is, for instance, most people today, because of their exposure to artificial light at night, their cortisol peaks at night. When I first did my test, my cortisol was around 10 microgram per deciliter at night, which is scarily very common. I talk to a lot of our clients who take their cortisol test before starting to use the proper protocols with light and darkness, and they also report their cortisol peaking at night. And this completely sabotages their body's ability to have restful night sleep, repair, and rejuvenate. But even worse, they wake up the second day with very little cortisol in their adrenal glands because they're secreting a lot of it at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. They feel sluggish and needing coffee and not ready for the day. Now, connecting this to menopause, which is a very, very interesting topic. And sometimes I find like, is there something wrong with me? Like sometimes I'm like so interested about this topic more than my sister and some other woman that I know. I'm like, why is that? But anyway, during premenopause, your ovaries slowly stop producing estrogen and progesterone. But in a healthy woman, the adrenal glands are supposed to compensate by secreting small quantities of estrogen and progesterone, and this makes a very smooth transition. Now, if you talk to like almost every woman I spoke to, somehow we're coming to like an ingrained belief that like as I enter menopause, it's normal. I experience hot flashes, that I gain weight, that I start suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not like this is far away from normal. It's not. And when we start living in environments that makes us sick, and when the majority of us become sick, we kind of then make it normal, and that's the sad truth. Now, like chronic stressors like blue light impede the process by forcing the conversion of pregnenolone to cortisol in women who are experiencing menopause. And with no amount of estrogen and progesterone being produced, then they experience those usual hot flashes, weight gain, fatigue. But it is not normal. And we really need to stop making it normal.
Amen. Yep. We're like, here's snaps. I mean, this is a conversation. Thank you so much for all this, Roudy. When we almost had our interview 2 weeks ago with you, Lisa and I got to talk about an experience where I was wearing a CGM and I had a very stressful experience, and it spiked my blood sugar to 172 or something. And it took me about 3 days to recover from that. So that was really cool to be able to see it real time as a test. And as we move into some of our upcoming programs where we're going to be using CGMs and we're going to be testing light, we're actually going to be able to see this in a group setting as well. And I think what's so beautiful about this is, well, first of all, I really appreciate that as a man, you're so interested in all of it, because it's super fascinating. And we do hear so many women that are having these experiences and normalizing them. And I asked my mom a couple years ago, we were on vacation in Mexico. I was like, when did you start understanding that you were going through menopause? And she was like, we didn't even have that word. Mm. And I was like, what do you mean you didn't have that word? She was like, yeah, I haven't heard that word until like recently. And I was like, so what did you, like, was there just no word for what you were experiencing? She's like, no, I just didn't experience anything. I just didn't have my period anymore. And so, and of course my mother is, hi mom, my mother is a very before her time individual. She's been using a red light for maybe 20 years now. She has an infrared sauna. We had the biggest juicer in our kitchen growing up. Like, it was just this whole otherworldly kind of thing. She's never drank alcohol. She's never smoked pot. She's never taken any sort of medication, except recently when she got bit by a spider. Like, she's an incredible specimen, really. And so it makes sense that she wouldn't have had those symptoms, because she was so integrated with nature, and she really put all of the money that she made was spent on health and researching and learning about light. Like, I don't know if you've heard about this, and this is a different topic sometime, but we'll get into, but if you've heard of esogenics, it's all about light frequency in the meridian lines of the body and using different spectrums of light to basically heal from the meridian pathways. So I feel like you guys would have some things to talk about. So as we're discussing this, it's such a beautiful thing, and kind of to bring it back for women who are listening and who we're working with, and they're like, why is my weight stalled? I'm doing all the exercise. I'm doing the different nutrition strategies. I'm going keto. I'm doing carb cycling. I'm taking this HRT. I'm doing all this stuff. But I think what is missing from the very base root, as you guys are learning, like now light has a big impact. But I think what's missing, and what Lisa was pointing to, is that Lisa always knew that she needed the sun. You always knew that you needed the sun. I always knew that I needed the sun. Like before learning about any of this light stuff, I was like, get my computer in front of a window, get it outside, let me work outside. Like my office was on a porch for about 2 years. And that was where I did my work, but I didn't know why. I just knew that my body was asking for it. So I think we can always have all of this amazing knowledge in the science, but also coming back to, if we're not really tuning in with the desire, bringing back to what you were talking about earlier, if we're not tuning into that desire, then we're going to be lost and distracted by everything else. And then what it sounds like you're talking about further, Roudy, which I really appreciate, is if we're consistently in these environments that are creating a consciousness of distraction, then we're not going to be able to essentially even know that we're not feeling well. Because we're in that environment. So it's an opportunity to identify that maybe the environment isn't serving us, and then listen to what our body is asking for instead. And I think that's the full like opportunity here, where it can be so much about light, and it can be that principle applied to everything else from the seed of desire that you're speaking to. And I just love it.
Yes. One thing came up as you're speaking about this. I truly believe that like this universe is two ways, and it's a universe of life and death, and life gives to death as much as death gives to life. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have observed throughout the years is that as a humanity, we are stuck in a mindset that keeps us more so in our death cycle than in our life cycle. Mm-hmm. And that is because we are innovating technologies that do not mirror the balanced rhythm of Mother Nature. And they have an imbalanced rhythm to them that throws us off our own rhythm and keeps us in that death cycle. And that translates a lot into the idea of desire, because without desire to live, create, and evolve, like nothing really that we know of can actually exist. And in today's world, it's becoming harder and harder, because I see like young people in cities, surrounded by all kind of unbalanced technologies, unbalanced lights. Most of the things that we are innovating in today's world, somehow we innovate them with the intention to take from people rather than give. Mm-hmm. Sadly, most of the technology companies in the world, they actually know that the light that they're putting in their devices and in the LED lights that are becoming everywhere, they know that this light causes people to become addicted. Mm-hmm. Studies are there to back up that when light enters your eyes after the sunset, it actually activates an area in the brain called the habenula, which is known as the disappointment center. And it suppresses the release of dopamine the following morning. And dopamine is this miraculous molecule that allows you to sit down and pay attention, think outside of the box, have the motivation to go after what you really want in life. It's connected to the desire from the very first place. And when you are constantly in environments where there's televisions around, there's all these lights, and it becomes normal, what happens is, sadly, you need to be a very disciplined person, and your discipline needs to be backed up by an intense desire to be different in order to navigate the darkness of today's world. Mm-hmm. And while this may seem a bit dark, I think it's the reality of things. And until we sit down and face our darkness, nobody else will be able to help us ascend beyond that darkness. It's us who are actually creating this darkness because of this unbalanced seed of desire that originate from a place of wanting to take rather than wanting to give. And I invite people, and I invite myself every day to like ask myself, like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Is it coming from a place of wanting to give and add increase to my environment and to my fellow human beings? Or am I driven by the desire and the question, what's in it for me and what can I take today? And this is a very dangerous question. And the difference between asking, what can I give and what can I take, will make all the difference. In fact, this morning, I was sitting down with a friend, and she is deeply passionate about marketing and advertising. And that drives her. And I'm like, okay, but why? Why does it drive you? What does this mean to you? And she's like, I love the rush of being able to help other people advertise their products and so on. And I'm like, okay, so the company that you are working for, what type of products are they advertising? And I know that it's Coca-Cola and other very disruptive companies that are taking from the earth and not giving back. And the essence of my question to her is like, why do you do what you do? And can you see that in every action you take today, you are contributing to the collective of how things are moving? And the sad truth that I shared with her is that like kids today are raised in an environment where everything around them is stealing their attention. Everything around them is depleting the life force of who they really are. And if we continue to move in that direction, trying to pretend that everything is all right and not willing to look at our own darkness in the face and ask ourselves, like, what can I do differently today? How can I contribute in one thing that will make things different? And even going out and sharing with a friend about what you learned today, right? About like how blocking artificial light at night will allow you to have restful sleep so that you can wake up with dopamine in your system to think for yourself. This of itself could make a massive difference, right? Like we can make massive difference in very little things, and it's those little things that really move the needle. So today I think like we all have like a massive responsibility to own our shit. Sorry for the word, but like we really need to own like all the darkness that we ourselves created, and we need to ask ourselves like why do we do what we do, and how, like, what is the core motivating force inside of me that is actually driving me to take that action? Do I want to be of service and give, or am I thinking what can I take? And the more of us who are thinking what can I take, the more difficult this journey is going to be for everybody, because the pain of one is the pain of all. And this guy who's suffering way far in China and Africa, if you think that their suffering is not affecting all of humanity, I think that there's things to rethink when it comes to that.
I'm so glad you brought up that it's basically what's going on, or what it feels like, is a hijacking of our energy, a hijacking of our attention. And I love this story of my little one, my 7-year-old, because we have a very different household than most, even just like daring to be different, and in many eyes like looking like a weirdo. There's a lot of people in my immediate family who are like, you're crazy. And I'm like, that's fine. I will take that. I would rather be weird and crazy and healthy and happy than just follow what everyone else is doing because it's normal.
Yes.
But in our house, just sharing videos of like, what does it look like at night around here? Everything's red. We have red lights and soft music, and helping that kind of decompression and transition into the evening. And it's so peaceful and so beautiful here, and so different than even just how we managed it, a few years ago. And then for, electronics and technology, it's when you realize that the same light, the same blue light, and the constant stimulation and the way these devices are built is the same It's the same strategy as like slot machines in Vegas. It's the same lighting as casinos in Vegas, and it's meant to keep you on it. It's literally designed to hijack your attention, and then you're addicted to that and you stay there. It's harder to opt out. You have to be more disciplined. So this story, my 7-year-old, we have very dedicated, TV time, or what we call electronic time. And we put a cap on it. It's 1 hour a week. And it's a family agreement, and they love it and they look forward to it. And it's such a special time. And sometimes my little one will be, Mommy, I tried to turn the show off, but it goes right into the next show. And he's like, I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to go over the hour rule. It just turned on. And I'm like, isn't that wild? You can't even turn that feature off of like the auto play. And so we were chatting about that a little bit of I don't believe that we are innately lazy and undisciplined and all that. I think we are literally fighting forces that are beyond like our comprehension. And we have that tendency to beat ourselves up. Oh, I just need more discipline. I need to work harder. It's like, if you could adjust a few levers in your environment so that it becomes easy to not have to exercise your discipline and motivation all the time, that is the game changer. So I so appreciate that you're bringing attention to that, because I feel like we tend to beat ourselves up of not being healthy enough or working hard enough. And that's only going to create more stress, right? So a lot of the women we work with, we're like, okay, you're trying to do all the things, and your stress is up here, and you don't even know. You're not even aware of how high stress you are. So with this discussion of artificial light, Roudy, could you share a little bit about Viva Rays, just so our community knows about this amazing company that you started, and also like what makes your brand and your glasses stand out as different? Because I found this out on my own, but I'd love to just like fast track that for everybody else.
Yeah, thank you for that reflection, by the way. I found myself like nodding in deep agreement as you're articulating it the way you said it. And to be clear also, like, this is not about running away from technology and trying to hide in caves and not be around. This is more so about understanding that technology is a tool that extends from the center of who we are. And like every tool in life, we are in control of that tool. Our bodies are vessels and are tools for service. And our bodies could equally control us. And we start taking decisions that are driven by the body all the time. But basically, technology is the same thing. It's not about running away from technology. It's about understanding that technology is a tool, and that it's our responsibility to use this tool wisely so that we can channel it in a way that is of service to humanity and to our evolution altogether. And Viva Rays glasses are also a tool. And I always tell people, like, don't make it so much about the glasses. This is, if you think you're gonna buy our glasses and like all of your problems are going to be solved, don't buy our glasses. Our glasses are a tool that will help you transform who you are, and that will help you to live in alignment with nature's light and dark cycles. And they will help you as much as you want to help yourself by taking the right actions to maximize healthy light during the day, and then basically have the power to eliminate that junk artificial light using that tool. So it's a transformation in consciousness, in your behavior, and in who you really are. Once you understand that nature's light and dark cycles, that pattern reset every rhythm in you, and that rhythm controls every aspect of your health, be it how you age, or be it how your nervous system reacts to stress, or how you digest, or how well you sleep, then you understand that tuning yourself into the cosmic rhythm is like, flowing down a river versus trying to swim upstream all the time. And back to what you were saying about trying to use your willpower in a wrong context. If you really try to use your willpower in a wrong context, you end up self-destroying your self-image. Now, why is that? Because like light has an evolutionary connection to your subconscious that is 1,000 years old. For instance, at 7 p.m., the sun has set. If you are in alignment with light and dark cycles, the satiety hormone leptin will tend to rise, and it will travel from underneath the fat tissues up to the hypothalamus in the brain, and it will upregulate your thyroid hormone. And this will allow you to actually release growth hormone, and it will increase your ability to burn fat at night. It will give you a sense of satiety after the sunset, a feeling of pure satisfaction. And that leads to, without needing to use any willpower, you're not gonna eat at that time. Now, what happens? Do the opposite and expose your eyes to blue and green light from screens, from your light bulbs. What's gonna instantly happen? Ghrelin, the hunger hormone, is going to increase. Leptin, the satiety hormone, is going to be suppressed, and you'll find yourself in front of the fridge eating without even thinking. And then the second day, you probably feel a bit guilty, and you're like, why did I do what I did? So trying to use your willpower to kind of force a disruption in evolutionary biology is not smart. It's like trying to, like force things and try to swim upstream in a river. You're gonna be exhausted by the end of the road. So again, like Viva Rays, what is Viva Rays? It's a tool that will help you navigate this world so that you can take control of your behavior and act from a place of alignment and from a place of resonance to your intention to live a healthy life. And daytime lenses, the ones that I'm wearing right now, those are not blue blockers. They are blue harmonizers. And many are the people who are talking about blue light. Blue light is bad. Blue light, like avoid blue light at all costs. This is complete nonsense, because in nature, there's nothing like good or bad. Everything literally is relative, and everything serves a purpose. And when you look at the spectral curve of sunlight during the day, it has a lot of blue light. Is that blue light bad and we need to block it? Of course not, because this blue light actually reset your circadian rhythm and elevate your mood and increases your alertness and focus during the day. However, when you look at the spectral curve of sunlight, it's that blue light is always balanced and proportionate with its polar opposite, the yellow, the orange, and the red light. And just like in any system in nature, every system in nature is composed of forces of opposite pressures that interchange and balance. And that balanced rhythmic interchange is what creates the balance effect that we experience in Mother Nature. So therefore, when we're exposed to sunlight, there's this balanced rhythmic interchange between the opposite colors. And that's why we feel all the benefits that we feel. However, when we come into an indoor lifestyle that is lit with fluorescence, LED bulbs, or even when we're sitting in front of our screens, we are dealing with a very nasty frequency. It's not even full spectrum blue light. It's a spike in blue light at 455 nanometers that is not balanced and proportional with the other frequencies of colors. And throughout all our evolution, we've never been exposed to this tiny spike in blue and the absence of all the other colors that balance out the blue light. And therefore, this creates an imbalanced effect, translating into inflammation. It damages the mitochondria, it decreases your energy level. It causes eye strain, fatigue, agitation, and countless different problems. And what the Viva Rays daytime classes do, they harmonize that 455 nanometer frequency, so it's less intense, and we spread it across the spectrum. So we're getting more of the yellow, green, and orange light into the eyes. And with all that being said, even these glasses are not the perfect equilibrium, because we're suddenly not getting full spectrum sunlight into the eyes. Yet, it's a powerful step towards that center of balance that we can use when we are in unbalanced environments, like our indoor environments. And then it's our responsibility to also take sun breaks every 2 hours or so and get that full spectrum sunlight in our eyes, and supplement, like in addition to using the glasses. And that's when it comes to the data. Now, evening lenses, which you can, as you can see, clip them on seamlessly onto the base frame, and those are engineered to mimic the color temperature of the bonfire at
Mm.
thousands of kelvins. Now, why is so? Because light is information, and the moment the sun sets, it drives this flow of information into our nervous system, telling us that the day is ending so that we can start activating our inner pharmacy and prepare all the hormones that we need so that we can undergo deep cleaning and rejuvenation and get deep restful night's sleep. Now, our ancestors were exposed to two types of light after the sunset, fire and candlelight. And it's exactly the light that I was exposed to on the farm that literally transformed my health and well-being in a matter of 3 days. Why is that light very important? Is because it doesn't have enough brightness and enough high frequency colors to confuse the brain about the time of the day. Because if you were to be inside after the sunset and you're cooking a meal in the kitchen around LED lights, you're sending a signal to your brain, telling your brain it's daytime again.
Mhm.
What happens is completely disrupt your hormonal production. You start producing cortisol, the stress hormone, at the wrong time. And cortisol and growth hormone, cortisol and melatonin, they can't coexist. So you've set yourself up to destroy the hormones that allow you to rejuvenate and repair your body. And therefore, to avoid this, you put on your evening lenses and you keep them on until 1 hour. 1 hour before bedtime, you switch into the nighttime lenses. And I like to use the analogy of the fire there because I think of the nighttime lenses as the period when the wood turns into amber oil. If you were around a fire, by the beginning of the fire, you still have a lot of energy. You feel like you wind down, you relax, but you can still cook, socialize, and talk with friends. You don't feel very sleepy. And that's the evening lenses. Whereas the nighttime lenses, it's like this last 30 minutes around the fire when the wood turns into amber oil and it's very dark and you instantly feel cozy and ready for bed. This is when the nighttime classes have decided to block all your old brain, increase brightness by 15 times, and they help you to maximize melatonin production and growth hormone so that you can get restful night's sleep.
Lise, you there's like so much information. It's so good. Roudy, I do want to just share that I'm really grateful and thank you for just identifying that you're using this as a tool, that it really comes from that place, because that is the framework that we support and educate through, is that all of the information is there for you to then use it as a tool. So we can essentially say that we're taking the innate desire, that we're the intentionality, as you were talking about, really asking, are we looking to give? Or are we looking to receive? And when we're coming from that experience, the thought that was coming through my mind is a thought that comes frequently, which is when we come from love, that's all that there is. And that's all that there can be, because that's the only thing that exists. And if our frequency is that, then that's all that we're going to experience in our life. And so you keep kind of talking about the balance. And that was such a beautiful example of all of the hormone systems that are in place throughout the evening. And when you were moving in and out of the like forward and back, we were losing a little bit of sound. So I think that's why Lisa and I were like, wait, what was that last part? I think we got it for the most part. But it's all so, like, you obviously are so educated. And of course, because you've created this tool for individuals to use so that we can work with technology and not feel like we have to remove it completely or vilify anything or say that this is totally good or totally bad. It's just bringing that full awareness into going, if you choose this, there's going to be an impact. And then how do you balance the impact? And then that's it. And to realize that there is an impact, there is an equal and opposite effect that's going to occur, but the cause of it is what we can look at to start and then work from there. So
Yes, absolutely. And I know there's like a lot to uncover when it comes to light and health, because it just touches every aspect of our health. So would love to perhaps coordinate together and we could like launch like a master class for your community and like have a deeper dive. also for anybody listening, I will share with you the link so they could access our free e-booklet. It's called Light, the Key to Mastering Your Sleep and Energy. And I wrote this e-booklet with the intention of like simplifying everything, so much so that a 3 year kid could read it and know exactly what they need to do in order to elevate their light environment and start experiencing better sleep, more energy, and more focus. So I will share that so you can drop it in the description of the episode. And also, you could equally like go to www.vivarays.com, Vivarays, and you could download the ebooklet from there. It's available on our website for free. And for anybody listening, if you have any questions, if you're diving into the ebooklet and there's things that you're curious about, you want to learn more about, reach out to us at support@vivarays.com, and we're more than happy to connect with you and hear what your questions and provide support.
I love it. It's been, I've been using the glasses now for, I think, 6 months, maybe a little longer. And it is such a game changer. You know, with all of this information, I was super skeptical. I'm like, no way can this like have such an impact. And the first time I put on the red lenses at night, I could not keep my eyes open. I've struggled with insomnia since I was a little kid, always struggled with sleep, had, you know, running anxious, more excited thoughts, just always excited of like, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow, and always had a hard time falling asleep. And I put the red lenses on, and like our room is dark. Like we have blackout blinds. There's no electronics in our room. And even at that, putting the red lenses on, I'm like, I can't stay up if I tried. So there's that. It's a real thing. And I love the glasses so much. I actually don't use them as much in my home because we basically don't use any of our LED lights or, you know, the traditional lights anymore. And then I got a red filter for my red filter software for my laptops and red filters on my phone and Windows Open. But they are a game changer. I'm so sensitive now to any other environment. So I'm using them. I can't even go to any store with all the overhead LED lights. Like I will last 30 seconds if I don't have my glasses. I can't do it. I'm like, it's amazing how quickly your body will adapt. And so they're always in my fanny pack. They go with me everywhere. Like concerts, sports games, other people's houses. Like it's a game changer. I'm so grateful to have them.
Yeah, indeed. It's like when you stop the junk food and you've been eating junk food all your life and you find yourself like on a farm where you're eating whole and organic food, then like only then you realize that like I cannot come back and eat junk food. And it's like almost the same with light. Like we've lived all of our lives in junk light environments, and we became like so normalized to like I think it's all good. But then when you take that moment and you use some tools to stop that junk light, you realize I can never get back to that point where like I'm soaking in junk light. And by the way, like for example, the daytime lenses, you really don't need to wear them if you are in a room with a lot of windows and you're opening your windows, because a lot of the natural light will come in. If you find yourself in a room that doesn't have window and the artificial light is dominating the natural light, then the daytime lenses are very important. I use them also in airports and malls. But also right now, for instance, I'm in my office, which has a lot of windows, but I need to close my windows so that the sound come off clearly. And when this happens, I use the glasses because the window will filter out sunlight in a way that is very unbalanced, and therefore the dominating blue from the screen becomes pretty intense. And this is why I wear the data lenses if my windows were closed. But the moment I open the windows, I don't wear them during the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could have a whole masterclass on just how to wear the glasses. So good. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up here. It was we're so grateful to have you on, Roudy. And I feel like this is the first of many many podcasts and discussions, because to be honest, it's in our space, at least applying this information to health and wellness, it's relatively new. It's newer in terms of we're learning the impact now of artificial light on overall health and all these other physiological processes that we weren't really considering before. So we're just excited to kind of be at the forefront and making these beautiful friendships and connections and be able to share this information. So truly, thank you so much for everything you've shared. We'll put all your contact information below. And then I think, Shannon, if you want to wrap up maybe our next topic that we might connect on with Roudy.
I mean, like I have so many. There's two that are brewing. I'm going to leave us with this. Next time, I would like to connect on light, breath, and sound. Period. Just going to leave it, trace it off, and we can go from there.
I love it.
I love that.
In all the ways that it can unfold. Thank you guys for listening. We can't wait to share more and have more of these conversations. As we were saying, if you have further questions specifically about Viva Rays, contact Viva Rays. We'll have all the information linked below. Again, Roudy, thank you so much. And this was amazing. So much to talk about. Can't wait for the next one. Hope everyone has a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.